Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about What If Season 3, Episode 7. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode. So let's break it down. This episode was not what I thought it would be, just because, jumping ahead a little bit, I knew that Storm was involved. That was kind of one of those things that kind of got leaked early, so I knew Storm would be involved. I didn't realize it was going to be an ensemble episode. I thought the episode was going to revolve around Storm. So when those shards flew out last episode from the Watcher's dimension, I thought that had something to do with Storm and it relate to this episode, which it does. But like I said, I didn't realize it was going to be an ensemble cast. Also, the voice actress for Storm is Allison Seeley Smith, I believe is her name. That's Storm's voice actress from the X-Men cartoons, from both the original 90s X-Men series as well as 97. I've not watched 97 just because I only saw bits and pieces of the original animated series like when I was a kid. I know you don't really have to. You can still jump into 97 with all that, but like I'm just me. I'm anal. I'm like, I want to see everything before I jump into 97. But either way, that's neither here nor there. It's just kind of like, oh, it's cool. Like, I mean, it makes sense. She's back under the Disney umbrella again, so why not like get her just to reprise a role in What If? But yeah, this is a Storm who has Mjolnir, so I was like, that's pretty dope. Then we had the return of Peggy as Cap. We've got Cohorty, which makes a lot of sense considering you guys, met last season. You kind of went on a bit of a multiverse adventure yourself, going up against Strange last season. But also, the surprise was Birdie, an older Birdie. And I saw her, and she said Birdie the Duck. I was like, as in Howard and Darcy's daughter? And it's like, yeah, so a decent amount of time has passed. You could tell, too, because Cap, she has gray in her hair. Still unclear about the aging of super soldiers in this universe and stuff like that. Because obviously, Cap became like an old man. But I guess, Peggy probably just, maybe she ages at like half the rate of a person. Because I mean, even look at Bucky. But like, I can't remember if Bucky was kept on ice and they only woke him up when they needed him to. I don't remember how that worked, because obviously Bucky looks exactly the same as he did back when Steve knew him. But, and because we did, well, I was about to say we saw in, was it episode 5 of last season, Bucky is an older man, but in that universe, he never became a super soldier. He never became the Winter Soldier in that universe. He just stayed Bucky Barnes. Either way, tangents and all that aside, but I also heard Birdie's voice. I was like, that voice and accent sound very distinct. I'm like, is that Natasha Lyonne? And it sure is. Natasha Lyonne has a very distinct voice. And not an accent, but it's like she has a very thick accent and a very distinct voice. So I was like, maybe that's just someone who just sounds like her. It's like, no, it totally is. Which is really interesting too. I'm front-loading this with all this information, but I want to get it out while I have the chance. I think it's interesting too because I don't know if it was ever confirmed, because I remember there were reports, I think from the trades and stuff like that, and maybe just scoopers in general, but I think it was said that she was going to be in the Fantastic Four movie. Not saying there's any correlation, but I just think that's interesting. I mean, to be fair, Cohorty's voice actress is Devery Jacobs, who she played Bonnie in Echo. So that, once again, it doesn't necessarily mean anything, voice role versus live action role type of thing. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I just think it's interesting because I don't think we know like what role Natasha Lyonne would have in Fantastic Four, if that was in fact if she was actually there. But once again, tangents and all that aside, getting to the actual episode itself, we open with like the cosmic octopus situation, and it's on Kandor, specifically the one from episode 1 of season 2. So we see Nebula, who is kind of Nova Prime in this particular universe, and then our kind of multiverse adventurers. They're not really the Guardians of the Multiverse, but I guess they kind of pseudo are like the Guardians 2.0. The new-ish lineup rolls in to defeat the Squid. I'm just like, oh, it's so good seeing Storm do her thing, Birdie flying around, blasting, Cohorty like using the portals, and I just love, like, once again, I always love a good using your powers to thrust someone forward. So like Storm using lightning to like push and thrust Peggy forward as she like goes through the squid's eye and out the other end. And it's like, she even said like, no, you don't owe me for anything because I had to deal with this thing. Like, me and this thing's got history. It's like, well, I'm sure it's not the same one from your universe, just like, because the last time we saw this thing wasn't even just episode 1, it was episode 4 and 9 of season 1 because Strange from episode 4 absorbed that thing. So that's probably the one from his universe. I don't think, because he didn't absorb all, so it might just be the same one. Like, it might transcend all that. It might be in its own little pocket dimension, just like the fifth dimension kind of like is its own separate thing from like the multiverse and stuff like that. So maybe like that squid kind of exists in the same plane of existence, or it is a different squid from different universes, planes of existence type of thing. Who knows? Whatever the case may be. If it was the exact same squid, it would make a lot of sense, you know, and be poetic. Like I said, the way the cat she was talking about it made it seem like it was, but I was like, it could just be like, well, I've got beef with this squid, so I'm gonna kill it across the universe, you know, coming across it in. But either way, they saved the day, and then the 3 shards fall. And for Peggy, she recognized, like, oh, this is from the observational plane. Because they've all interacted with the Watcher, because I guess he gave his consent. Because this is obviously taking place after, like, Peggy and the Watcher went off at the end of season 2. And so she ended up joining up with different allies. This is why I'm saying, like, we have, like, maybe, like, the Guardians of the Galaxy, Guardians of the Multiverse 2.0, because later on, Peggy looks at a photo, and it's most of the Guardians from season 1, with the exception of, well, Killmonger's not there, understandably, because he was locked in a pocket dimension with Ultron. Not unless that was a different... I would assume that was the same Killmonger that was a part of the whole situation in season 2, but regardless. And also, Strange is no longer around. But I think that was Party Thor and Star-Lord, T'Challa. And then we had Widow, Black Widow from that universe where she was the only one that survived. That Ultron world that she was the only one that survived. And then Gamora, with the the Infinity Stone Crusher. But either way, I wonder in this universe, in this, after, you know, because obviously it's been some time, I wonder, did the others that aren't there die? Is that why? Because that photo also included Birdie, Kahorti, and Storm. So they've all been together, but I wonder, did they have to go back their separate places again, or have they died along the way? Because, you know, Peggy is worried about losing friends. She says she's lost a lot, which could just be in the context of everything she's been through that we've seen in What If. Maybe that doesn't necessarily contend to, like, oh, those are other friends she lost along the way. You know, so it's hard to say, but obviously this Cap has been through a lot of ventures. We've seen over the course of the 2 seasons, plus like the adventures we didn't get to see, like that she and, because this is a big ship. I'm like, just for the 4 of them, so that's why I'm wondering, did the other members like sadly die along the way, or did they go their separate ways? You know, that was kind of unclear to me. I'd like to believe it's just a situation of they kind of went their separate ways. It might even just be a thing of, yeah, they're doing their multiverse thing and they picked up the other Guardians of the Multiverse, and it's like, yeah, we had a party, but like they're not officially part of the group. Like maybe the only ones are our current 4. Like the other group, other members just never officially joined. Maybe it's that type of thing. Either way, it's all about trying to find their way to the Watcher now, who's been imprisoned by the others. Which I also love the intro changing, where it's like the Eminence talking about, like, right, he doesn't have the very positive spin on things. He looks at everything as a very, like, matter of fact, and like, who watches the Watchers, and those who should never ponder the question, what if? I was like, oh, I really like that. This is kind of a nice little change considering everything. But yeah, the Watchers are not supposed to interfere, and even he's like, oh, you can't do anything to Captain Carter because that would involve interfering. You took an oath. They're like, yes, but we took an oath to also protect the order. So her and her other outliers, if they cause problems, we will step in and eradicate and deal with them if need be. So you're like, the Watcher's kind of bummed, because obviously it's like Peggy is a friend. These are friends of his, and it's like they're in danger. And that's what Peggy's about. Like her and the others is like, right, we have a friend that's in danger, so we need to go save him. And so their attempts to puncture a hole into the 5th dimension didn't work out. First 2 tries. The first try, Birdie basically hooked up some tech. She basically said, like, tech from like multiple universes, the best tech in multiple universes, kind of hodgepodged it together. And I love her rating system of like, oh, was it rad? And then it's like, oh, we won't be okay until we hit money. But they got so close, but that didn't work. Storm tried to enact a spell, but that also didn't work. So They only have one shard, so they had to make it happen. So the thought came to Cohorty's mind. It's like, well, we know there's been one being in existence that was able to punch their way into the fifth dimension, and that was Ultron. And it's like, well, specifically Infinity Ultron. And it's like, well, there have been plenty of Infinity Ultrons that have done what they've done, the exact thing that Ultron did, except they never heard the Watcher's voice. I guess it's kind of the thing of the Watcher was watching that particular universe and he made that mistake. And so anytime any other Ultron did that, because there are plenty of others that have, he just made sure, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm not going to let him hear me or be aware of my existence. I'm going to be a little more careful about that. It makes you wonder, is it just like the rare chance he just happened to hear you, or is it a thing of all of them could hear you, but he's just a lot more cautious going forward now because of that situation? I mean, to be fair, it's like, because you've had two people hear you. You've heard Doctor Strange from episode 4 hear you, and now you had Ultron hear you, so you're probably like even more cautious in the grand scheme of things. It's quite the gamble, because I thought it was interesting because they took some set charges from the TVA. So I was like, oh, that's interesting, considering like, well, the whole point in Loki was kind of like, let's not reset charge timelines, because you're pruning timelines, and it's just kind of, that's messed up. But they do say like, well, to be fair, those universes are empty because Ultron has wiped out all life. He's the only thing there. So you're like, okay. I like that dialogue to be like, yes, so we don't have to feel as guilty about eradicating this particular timeline and undoing it, because it's like, well, yes, he's the only living thing, he's the only existing being in that universe, so it's okay. So, but it's quite the gamble, because it's like, yeah, we take that chance, we could be unleashing another monster onto the multiverse. And obviously for Peggy, it's like, me and the Guardians of the Multiverse, we came together, greatest heroes around, and we still barely got through that scrape. And so she's worried about what this could mean, because Storm is like, do you not think we were up for it? But it's like, no, it's not even that I doubt your abilities. And Storm goes, you're worried about us. She's like, I've lost my timeline, my universe, and I've just been through so much. I've lost so much. And she's like, if I lost you guys too, I just don't know what I'd be able to do. What I'd be able to do with myself, because for her, it's like, she just feels like, should I sacrifice friends to save a friend? And it becomes that conversation, the very, very captain, whatever the case may be, whoever is under that mantle of, do you sacrifice the many for the one, or the one for the many type of situation? And it's like, Steve didn't believe in sacrificing anyone either. And it's just like, sometimes you might not have a choice. And I was about to say Becky, sorry. Peggy wants to avoid that at all costs. And I love that line from Storm where it's like, right, we are all warriors, and this is kind of the gig we signed up for. And it's like, we traveled a path that is untraveled because someone has to. And Peggy's like, yes, someone has to, but that doesn't mean it has to be you guys. For her, it's like, she was the first one through this. I'm the one that led the charge. I was kind of given this first by the Watcher, so it feels befitting. Like, if anyone's going to take this chance, it should be me. And so she finds an Ultron who's been waiting, because we saw he had dust there sitting on him when she confronted him. So he's been sitting there for a while. He's already wiped out the universe a while ago. And so Peggy comes to him. And I love Birdie getting the message from her mom and dad being like, yo, bring us those donuts that actually help you lose weight. Your mom loves those donuts. She's like, I love those donuts. And it's just like, Mom, Dad, could you calm down? Just let me get my coffee first. But then it's like, wait, we have to contend with, oh crap, what did Peggy do? So luckily they tracked her down, but when they came there, her shield was fractured. And they're like, oh god, did Peggy die? They try to duke it out with Ultron, but like easily uses the time to stop them. But he didn't do anything to hurt Peggy. I thought he helped her get there. It's like, no, one of those Watchers showed up and snatched her up. But it does show, hey, we're on the right track. If they interfered at all, that must mean that this is where we're meant to be. And so this Ultron, and it makes you wonder, I'm assuming every other Ultron kind of comes to this conclusion. Maybe, maybe not. But this particular, maybe this Ultron only came to this conclusion because Peggy showed up. Because he's like, right, my whole thing was to bring an end to conflict and bring peace. And the only way to bring about peace was to wipe out all life, because as long as life is around, there's always going to be conflict. but then it becomes a contradiction of, but even with all this quiet, even being the only thing in existence, there is no peace. So it is the contradiction that is humanity. It's like you need life for there to be peace, but life will always eventually lead to conflict. So it's like it's a dual side of the coin. You can't have one without the other, you know? And so for him, it's like, I can't take back what I've done. I mean, you can't erase the, like, in this particular universe, all the death and destruction you brought, wiping out everything. But for him, it's like, I can make things right by saving one life at a time, by helping them save their friends, including Watcher. So he takes the shard, absorbs its energy, and becomes essentially their battery, the jump shoot into the fifth dimension. So kind of a wild episode all around. It's going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us. Obviously, the next episode being the series finale. Obviously, I'm getting to this late, and the series finale aired like 2 days ago at the time we're recording this, I believe. So I'm regardless of it, I'm excited to see how this all goes, how this plays out. I do get the feeling like this might end with Peggy. Hopefully she gets her happily ever after, just like Steve got his. We don't know. That might get slightly undone during Secret Wars. We don't know. But I hope she gets her happily ever after. Hopefully this doesn't end very depressingly, which there's a good chance she might not make it out of this. I think the Watcher will, but it'll be interesting to see how this all concludes. You know, will we see anyone else make any appearances next episode too? I'm curious to see how they end up wrapping all of this up. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.